This video will show you how to make an animated video that you can use for a book cover reveal or for other purposes. I did this using Photoshop, though you can use it with another photo editing program that allows you to work in layers and export PNG PNG files. I also used iMovie on my Mac, and I'm not sure that these instructions will work for another video editing software. Let me show you first what the final product looks like. All right, that's it. Just a simple 20-second animated video for a book cover reveal. Let's get started. You're going to start in Photoshop or your preferred photo editing program. But first, I'd like to show you a couple of tips. I wanted to use a 3D book cover, and I also wanted to use some cool fonts. So let me show you how you can make your own 3D book cover just using a regular 2D file. The first place you can go is called Cover Vault. If you use and feel really comfortable with Photoshop, this guy Mark has this amazing Cover Vault website. It has all sorts of different, what we call them, 3D mock-ups, where you can use your book cover files and make these really cool mock-ups. He has some incredible ones. You do need to be somewhat familiar with Photoshop or willing to do some searching on how to use this type of thing. Look at his website and then look for tutorials online. You'll get a really high quality product or result, a really high quality mock-up by using his site. And all you have to do is comment on whichever blog post. He sets up each of these mock-ups as a blog post. You comment on the blog post if you want to download it, and then you download it for free. It's an amazing service for authors. If you prefer not to use that for any reason, and if you don't want the learning curve, you can go to DIY Book Design. It's actually called DIYBookCovers.com. They have lots of different mock-ups. They're all free. And all you have to do is upload your book cover, and it will automatically make the mock-up for you. You'll download it as a PNG, a PNG file, and then you'll have your mock-up. It's not going to be as high quality as Cover Vault, but it still works. It works great. I've used it plenty of times for my books, and either one of those will work, but Cover Vault will be higher quality. Great to have some really cool fonts that you can use on your on all of your marketing. And 1001fonts.com is a fantastic place to download free fonts. First, you want to click this little symbol that says free for commercial use. Don't use fonts that are not free for commercial use if this is for commercial use. You could get into trouble. I asked my book cover designer what font she used, and it's an awesome font, but it was $69. I didn't want to pay for it. So instead I used some fonts from 1001freefonts.com. So to find your fonts, again, you want to click free for commercial use, but then there's almost 5,000 of those, so you will want to narrow it down. Let's say that we want a handwritten font. We're going to click handwritten. And then let's narrow it down even further because there's still almost 600 of those that are free for commercial use. I clicked more. Let's say we also want a serif font. Serif. We're going to click serif. Whoops, there we go. Click that. And these are all the handwritten serif fonts that are free for commercial use. And there's only 40 of them. That serif is those little kind of marks at the tops and bottoms of letters. Those are serifs. And so you can start looking through there. You can even enter the text that you want to use on your book cover or on your marketing so that you can see what it will look like. So I'm going to say the awesome book. And here's what all of these different fonts would look like using that text. Let's go back to Photoshop or whatever photo editing program you're using. Now, you want this to be a 16:9 slide because that's what iMovie uses. And you're just going to make the slide however you want it to look. Make sure you have a background that's a nice color. Mine's white. And everything on this slide, you want it to all be in different layers. So here's your book cover, your 3D book cover that you made. that is going to be its own layer. Each layer of each line of text needs to be its own layer. So if you don't know how to use layers, look that up, but they all need to be different layers. And then we have to do a bunch of different PNG exports of this file in different versions. And so let me show you how we're going to do that. First thing we're going to do is we're going to hide all of these layers so you can see what it looks like when it's just going to be a transparent layer. Oops, missed one. Let's go back to that one. There we go. All right, we hit all these layers. And then we're going to go ahead and just have one layer show up. The very first line of text that we want to show up on our video. So the first line of text, in my case, that is the frost eater. And I actually decided to do 2 lines at once. I'm gonna click to make this visible. The frost eater is now visible. We're just clicking that little I next to the layer to make it visible or invisible. And then I also wanted it to say by Carol Beth Anderson. Whoops, did the wrong one. By Carol Beth Anderson. Okay, I wanted both of those lines to fly in at once in my video. So I've got only that with a transparent background. I'm going to export that as a ping. I say quick export as ping. And then I want to put all these in like one big folder so I can find them all. In this case, I just called this TFE by CBA for the Frost Eater by Carol Beth Anderson. And I exported that as a ping file. I'm not going to export it right now because I already did it. But that's what I would do is I would name it something that makes sense and export it. All right, I've got that exported file. I'm going to go ahead and hide those 2 layers again. And I'm going to make visible the next layer that I want to fly in on my video, which in my case is the series title. Then I'm going to export that. Export as ping. I called it TME Book 1 for the Magic Eaters Book 1, and I'm going to save that as a ping file. I would make that invisible and do the next layer of text. Post-apocalyptic YA fantasy. I would give that a name. In my case, I'm going to call it genre 1, and then I would export it, and then I would export the next line, and then I'm just going to export each of these lines of text, each as a ping file with a name that makes sense to me. All right, next thing I'm going to do is do some more exporting. So first, I'm going to make everything visible again. All right, it's all visible again. Yay! Let's go back up. We're going to export this whole thing because we want the entire slide as a ping file, and I just called it entire thing is what I called it. There it is, entire thing. Creative name, right? Entire thing, and I exported that slide. And then I'm going to do some more exporting, and first I'm going to hide the very last line of text that I'm bringing in. See, I hid that January 28th, 2020. And I'm going to export this entire slide except January 28th, 2020. And I'm going to call that line with some romance on the side. I had exported that line as genre 2. So I'm going to call this slide genre 2 complete. It's the entire slide up to the genre 2 line. The entire slide up to the genre 2 line. Genre 2 complete, we're calling that slide. I would export that as a ping, and then I would get rid of that genre 2 line, and now I'm at the genre 1 line, post-apocalyptic YA fantasy, and I would export that as genre 1 complete. Genre 1 complete. Export that. I would get rid of genre 1 complete, and then I would export the next one as TME Book 1 complete. And then I would get rid of that, export the next one as, the TFE by CBA complete. So finally, I would export just this slide with just the background and the book cover, and I called that cover slide because it has the book cover on it. just the background of the book cover. I'm going to need that slide too, cover slide. All right, now I have a whole bunch of different slides that I'm going to need. I'm going to go ahead and make all this visible again. I have all the slides that I'm going to need for my video now. All these different PNG slides, they're just all the same versions of this slide. All right, let's go over to iMovie now. iMovie. Now this is my completed project, but I am going to go and basically restart this project so you can see how I actually put it together. Create new movie. All right, all of my slides are showing in my iMovie library, but that's because I actually used them in a previous project. Normally your slides are not going to show up there. I find that the easiest way to bring images into, or clips or anything into iMovie is just to open up my Finder and then drag stuff in. So let me find that, folder. Okay, this is where I saved them all. And we're gonna start with that, that cover slide, which is the last thing we actually made. That's the one that just has the background and the book cover, coverslide.png. So I'm gonna pull that into iMovie. It's 4 seconds long. I got to decide how long I want this cover slide to be. This is going to be the animation of the book cover itself. And so let's get back in here. Can make it shorter or longer. So if I wanted it to be really short, I could make it a lot shorter, but that's less than a second. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out here because, man, I don't want 4 seconds to take up that much space on my screen. Okay, I think I'll make this about 5 seconds long. So we'll make it about 5 seconds long. And then we get to actually animate it. We get to make it zoom in on that cover or zoom out on the cover, however we want to. We're going to click this little thing that says cropping up here. And we click Ken Burns. It probably is already clicked. This Ken Burns sort of cropping / zooming allows you to decide where this clip starts, which frame the clip starts on and which frame the clip ends on. And so we're going to take this little start one and drag it where we want it. I wanted my video to start on just a close-up of my name and the series name. So I put that little window where I want it, and then end always needs to take up that entire the entire frame, which in this case it does, but that end rectangle should take up the entire frame. So we've started really small and we've got that end rectangle. Let me show you what that actually looks like when it's animated. When we've got the video rolling. I'm going to click at the beginning, click play. Looks pretty cool, right? We've got it zooming out on that book cover. All right, next we're going to need to put in our very first line of text. We're going to click here, and actually before we put in our first line of text, we're going to bring in this cover slide again. And we just want it to be fixed in place where like it's not going to move. So we click that crop thing and we click fit, and that'll be fixed in place. So basically we just want this slide to sit underneath the next slide. The next slide is going to be our first line of text zooming or flying in, but we need this the cover slide underneath it. So that's why we put the still cover slide right there where it's not zooming or anything. Next, let's bring in our first line of text. So we're going to take this, the Frost Eater by Carol Beth Anderson slide, and we're going to actually put it up here above this slide. You might want it to stay on the still slide for a short time before you bring in any text. So I'm not going to put it right at the beginning of that still slide. I'm just going to move it over a little. That's our first line of text. And now we get to click on that first line of text, the Frost Eater by Carol Beth Anderson, and you get to decide how you want to animate it. But first I'm going to make it shorter. I like for my text animations to be pretty short. I set it at about 1.8 seconds each. So click on it and then click up here again at that crop symbol. Now remember, this is our end slide. Our end slide actually needs to take up the entire screen. So let's move that one off to the side. Let's hit our start slide. Move it. Now let's go ahead and make our end slide big. Make it as big as you can get it. Oh, it doesn't want to move. Here we go. There we go. Okay, now I can make it. It needs to take up the entire screen. Now let's figure out where we want our start slide to be. How does it look from coming from there? Let's see. That looks pretty cool, but maybe you're like, I'm not sure that I want it to be that big when it starts. So, because see, it starts off really big. You can adjust that start slide where it doesn't start off so big, where it's kind of already zoomed out. So I'm going to click up here and maybe make it a little bigger. Let's see. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. It won't be choppy in the final version. It's choppy when you're working on it, but when you export it, it won't be choppy. So that looks pretty cool. All right, now I want this Frost Eater by Carol Beth Anderson. I want it to stay still for a short time before I move in our next line of text. So I'm going to take that exact same slide, TFE by CBA, drag it in here so that it can stay still for a while. I'm going to make it really short. I only want that still slide for maybe like half a second or less. So I'm making it like 0.29 seconds. It's really, really short. All right, so then we're going to take this bottom slide and make it the exact same length as those two top slides. So it ends at the same place. So let me show you how this looks. That looks good. Oh wait, it's animated. I forgot. When it needs to be still, I need to change it to fit instead of Ken Burns. All right, that second little slide. Let's see how this looks now. There we go. It's animated and now it's still, which is perfect. And we can start on our next level. Now we want this entire slide that has the book cover and the Frost Eater by Carol Beth Anderson to sit underneath our next level of animation. So we're going to go back into Finder. Find that slide that we called TFA by CBA complete. It's that slide that has all that stuff on it. I'm going to move that in on the bottom level. And it is zooming, so we need it not to zoom. We need to click fit on that bottom slide. Now here's how this looks. We've got that zooming in, and then it just stays right where it's supposed to be, and we are going to be able to bring in our next line of text. Our next line of text is, in my case, the series name, TME Book 1. I'm going to bring that in. Once again, I'm going to click it. I'm going to make it shorter, about 1.7, 1.8 seconds. I'm going to click it again, go up to crop, figure out where I want it to zoom in. Remember that the end slide needs to be the entire slide. So that end slide needs to be in the entire slide. So I moved the start slide so that I could adjust the end slide. Now the end slide is the entire slide, and the start slide, let's just try it here and see how it looks. I don't really love the look of that coming in on top of the other text, so let's try a different way of doing it. Let's try it up higher so that it's working a little bit differently. Oh, I kind of like that coming in from below. That looks pretty cool. So I like that zoom, and now I want it to stay still for a little while before we bring in the next line of text. So I'm going to take that same one, tmebook1.png, move it over here, make it really short like I did it before, just to have that little bit of still time. Move it over less than a second long. I'm going to click this bottom one, make it end at the same spot. Let me show you how this looks. Oh, I forgot to click fit again. Okay, click that second slide that's supposed to be still. And now let me show you how this looks so far. Excellent. All right, next we would bring in that slide that says TME Book 1 complete. And that's what would sit underneath our next line of animated text. So you can see the pattern here. You can see what we're doing here. we would pull in our next line of animated text, which in my case is the genre line. So we'd pull that in. We'd make it shorter. And we would animate it and do all the stuff we did before, and then we'd bring it in again and make it still. And then we just keep going until we have all of our text done. Let me get out of this. I'm going to rename it. I'll rename it Cover Reveal Tutorial. And let me show you how this looks when you're done, just so you can see how it looks when it's completed. All right, so you can see that we've got that beginning slide that animates just the book cover coming in. We've got all the different lines. So here's the book cover, first line of text, still, second line of text, still, third line of text, still, fourth line of text, still, and the last bit of our text. And then it just sits on this slide. So this slide here at the very end is the one that we called entire thing. We put that one at the end so that it stays still. You make sure you put it on fit so that it stays still. And you decide how long you want it to be. I decided I wanted a 20-second video, so that slide ended up being about 6.1 seconds. And lots of times on social media, depending on what social media you're on, it will automatically replay the slide at the end, or replay this video at the end, which is really pretty cool. But now let's save our file. You can go up to the little export and click File. This should all be the highest quality, 1080p, high quality, better quality compression. It makes a somewhat big file, but it's only a 20-second video. It's not too big. And that's going to help you when you could do faster compression, but I think better quality is going to give you a better, it's going to give you a better quality video. And we want this video to look the best that it can when you post it on social media. Here's a hint. If you're posting on Facebook, post via your app, not the desktop. On your app, you can go into settings and you can select that it will upload high definition videos. So what I did is I saved this. I made sure it was on Dropbox. And then in Dropbox, I exported it to my photos on my phone. And from there, I was able to upload it onto Facebook using high definition video because I changed the settings in my app. And from what I've read, it's easier to do a high definition video using your app on Facebook than it is using your desktop. Twitter and Instagram seem to upload it just fine in high definition without changing any sort of settings or anything. But you want it to look as good as it can when people click on it. I hope this has been really helpful to you guys. Please let me know if you have any questions and have fun making your own videos.